Good morning. Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Hit like buttons, get yourself subscribing, and make sure, more importantly, that bell notification button is turned on. Lots to talk about this morning on the show. Mainoo backs Ruben Amorim. There's still more controversy surrounding the Manchester United manager. Strangely, after Thomas Tuchel messes up and after Thomas Tuchel calls an England player repulsive, it's Ruben Amorim that's dragged into this via the mainstream media. But Mainoo has backed him. We're talking William Saliba that has been ruled out for the better part of a month. How will this impact Arsenal? What will the reaction to this be? As we see a number of Arsenal fans online really go at Mikel Arteta again due to another injury in the squad. Plus, Alexander Isak, it doesn't stop. And he's in real danger. And I stand on what I say. He's in genuine real danger because he is going to become the hate figure of English football. And there's something about this, and I will not stop talking about it. Yes, there'll be people telling me to stop it because they want to abuse the player. There'll be people trying to shut this down because they want to attack him, lie about him, and spread falsehoods with impunity. But no, I'm not going to be bullied into stand silent because he is truly in danger of becoming the hate figure of the English game. So hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Make sure you are subscribing to the channel as well. That would be amazing if you could do that for us. Let me know where you're watching from around the world as well. Nigel here says, what danger? Well, we'll go into it, Nigel. I've given you a brief overview there, my friend, but we're going to go into it in more detail this morning. Surprise, surprise, everybody was reaching with the Mainoo Instagram post. Well, listen, we're going to go into that this morning as well because I thought it was so interesting after he reacted. And this is how desperate people are for Man United to be in further turmoil than we are in, or whatever, whatever way people want to sort of express this. What I find absolutely hilarious about the whole situation is people have now tried to turn it into a sort of like, oh my God, this is the funniest bit that I saw was people trying to turn this into, Mainoo hits out at the United stand. He didn't hit out at the United stand at all. It was nothing to do with the United stand. He was responding to what the United stand said, and we're going to delve into all of that this morning on the show. Hello to Moondog says that Isak in danger of scoring against rivals. I agree with you. I think he will, and that's also part of the issue. It's why a lot of people will side with the Newcastle argument on this because they just want and I do get from a rival perspective they want to make him as uncomfortable as possible to heighten the chances he flops. Why would rivals want him to do well is crazy, but the hate is unreal. It's not even real. It's unreal what's being said about him, and there was massive proof of that yesterday when I put out the Football Terrace. I didn't personally, but the Football Terrace put out an article that the only time I mentioned Newcastle was the fact that Newcastle were involved in the saga, but actually it was talking more about the ridiculous comments that Lineker and Shearer put out that what Isak had done is unprecedented. And I just called it out saying that's kind of it's a real dangerous sort of precedent for them to set. And the amount of people going, this is just anti-Newcastle. You haven't read the article, which proving the point. I mean, even the title of the article didn't slag them off, but yet that's what people turn it into. So it's a weird world that we live in. But I did want to start with the Mainoo news this morning because yesterday we sat here on the show when talking about Mainoo, and people were very much like, Terry, no, you're wrong. He definitely is talking about Ruben. And I watched it. Last night, I watched Whiplash. I watched the movie. Very, very, very good cinema. I'm glad I watched it. First thing I'll say, it's not a true story. So this isn't what happens, I'm not going to ruin it for people, but obviously there's a death in the movie and there's a bit of backstabbing and it's very toxic at times, very toxic for many people at times, but it isn't a real movie. It was inspired by real life experiences of the writer and director of the film, who was a jazz drummer in a high school band and was intimidated by his conductor. So, but he, of course, dramatized it and exaggerated it for movies. So again, there is no doing a like-for-like comparison. But what a lot of you told me in the comment section yesterday ended up being the truth. And Kobbie Mainoo confirmed it in the middle of the day. And have you noticed that people have gone very, very quiet on this? Have you noticed how people have gone exceedingly quiet in the comment section? Terry, stop trying to make this into a positive yesterday. Terry, stop trying to defend Ruben Amorim. Terry, we all know what Kobbie Mainoo meant. You don't post that picture if you're not trying to say that the coach is an absolute piece of excrement. Well, Kobbie Mainoo himself has come out and responded. So the United Stand put out a post, and you'll see it if you read the top, is Kobbie Mainoo's recent Instagram post a cause for concern, or is it just a coincidence that's being blown out of proportion? Of course, now, before we go to what Kobbie said, the United Stand posted a very balanced video, which was some people, are they blowing it out of proportion? Are they turning this into a civil war type nonsense? Or is it very much a case of, is it cause for concern? Or is it just a player saying, I'm going to work my backside off to prove I'm good enough for this team? Which is exactly what Ruben Amorim will want to see. It's exactly what every Man United fan should be happy with. But one thing that movie and yesterday's situation taught me is there's a lot of insubordinate and lazy people in the world. There's a lot of people, and listen, that movie is an exaggeration in it. Listen, I like the Rocky movies, but there's an exaggeration. The punishment that Rocky takes in nearly every single film. If a boxer really went through that, like especially in the early years, like if you really went through 15 rounds having your head pummeled, it probably wouldn't end the way the fights happen. Do you know what I'm saying? The power in the punching of Ivan Drago as an example. If he really was punching as hard as those computers made out, there's no way Rocky could have survived those 12 rounds with him. But there's a dramatization for entertainment purposes. Most spy movies are like it. Rom-coms are like it. So we can't be taking the exact, even when you see films that are like, they always say based on a true story, because they always tell you that they dramatize it for cinema, right? So I kind of sit there and think to myself a lot of the time, I go, well, look, we've got to take that into consideration. But what I saw was a movie about a music conductor who has exceedingly high standards and pushes people really, really hard to get to the right level. And although, I wouldn't advocate for Ruben throwing chairs at people. I wouldn't advocate for the names that conductor calls people. But the base of it, yes, I would want a coach. I would want a mentor. I would want a boss to keep pushing me and pushing me and pushing me to be the very best, especially when you're, we're not talking about being the best shelf stacker at Tesco's. We're not talking about being the best accountant in a firm. We're talking about whether it be, you get this in certain industries, you get it in the food industry, you get it in sport, you certainly get this in the music industry where people are pushing people to be the very best because people are looking for perfection. And I think that there is almost, you become a chef, there's almost an unwritten rule and expectation. You're going to get blasted, you're going to get shouted at if things are wrong. And it's the nature of those industries. And I don't necessarily think we should be changing them. Maybe there'd be some barriers, but yeah. So I watched that film. I then looked at Kobbie Mainoo's response, as you could all see here, where Kobbie comes out and just says, it's a stretch to say it's a concern. Now, he wasn't having a dig at the United Stand, as people tried to then turn it into a new drama. Oh, Kobbie digs at the United Stand. No, he didn't. If you actually listen to what Mark said, and then you listen to Kobbie's response, he said it's a stretch. It's a stretch to suggest that this was a dig at the manager and a concern that I have. This was literally him saying, I'm going to work my fingers to the bone to be the best version of myself to help Manchester United. And I'm glad he's put it to bed. I'm glad he's back the manager. And for me, I look at this situation and think to myself, we saw Mo Salah a couple of days ago come out and shut down and shut up and push back against the nonsense that some fan accounts put out there. When you're playing your own players off against each other, when you're disrespecting champions and winners from your football club, Player FC is the next thing that has to be called out. I've said it for years. If Pogba FC, if you're a self-proclaimed member of Pogba FC, if you stood in front of Paul and you spoke about the Brunos of this world and the McTominays and said the things that you tweeted online and said on videos, Paul Pogba, your hero, your God, your Messiah, you're the person that you have the sock over, would think you're a fool, would think you're a clown, and would probably call you some sort of dickhead. And I would love to see now the footballers coming out and doing a bit more of this, where they come out and say, this is just nonsense, where they come out and they just clarify. I also agree that, again, I don't agree. Yesterday, I saw people say, you can't be posting cryptic messages online. Oh, you can, because there's always something. I mean, I didn't think it was that cryptic. Now, I'm not seeing Whiplash. having watched Whiplash, if I saw that, my first thought wouldn't have been, oh, Cobby hates his coach. Because by the end of it, if you watch that final scene of Whiplash, there is this, I don't care whether you like the mentor or like the drummer or not, there is a genuine mutual respect. He's found his level. The conductor, even though he hates him, is like, fair play. And you know what? The reality of it is this. I don't care. Let's just say in 10 years' time, Ruben leaves and Cobby leaves. And we've won 3 or 4 Prems, Champions Leagues, FA Cups, the lot. All of it. I don't care if Cobby writes a book and says how much he despised the manager. I don't care. As long as they work well together professionally. I think one of the biggest downfalls at this football club in the past 13 years is that players, managers, and fans, we live in this weird world of, oh, everyone's got to be friends. We need everyone to like everyone. No, we need people to be professional. I remember Scholesy talking about the fact that there were certain United players that he played with for years. Doesn't even have their number now, didn't have his number when they played together, didn't socialize with them because you're not friends with everybody you work with. But on the pitch, in training, there's a respect. I'm sure there's lots of players that played for Fergie that didn't like him, that did a great job for him. But the ones that didn't like him and did a bad job are the ones that couldn't separate how they felt about the man versus the professionalism. And we need more of that. So I don't care if Cobby likes him or not. I don't care if Ruben likes Cobby. I couldn't give a damn. I want a player that is willing to do whatever it takes to be the best player possible. And of course, I shouldn't have to say this, but it's 2025 and there's weirdos out there. Of course, I don't mean anything crazy. Like, all right, Ruben, I'll scrub the toilets with my toothbrush to play on Saturday. Nothing dumb. Don't come out with any ridiculous, warped suggestions. But I want a player that professionally is willing to do anything it takes to get to the top. And professionally, I'm willing for a head coach and a manager to do whatever it takes to get the very best out of these players. And I have used the word professionally do whatever it takes. So again, no scrubbing toilets with toothbrushes, no kissing toes, no making players wash your car, nothing crazy. Unless it's a forfeit. I mean, that'd be a great forfeit. Can you imagine, the player who does the worst in the bleep test has to wash everybody's cars after training? Again, I'm not against that type of thing. I think that can create really good camaraderie, especially if the reaction to it is 3 or 4 teammates come and help him do it. There's all these things you can actually do through a little bit of adversity. But I am glad that Cobby has shut it down. It's something we can move on from now as fans. It's something we can push back against. And we have to. We really, really have to, because the mainstream media are full of arseholes. Even just today, TalkSport have released a video where they're talking about Thomas Tuchel, who in a press conference referred to some of Bellingham's behavior, this is a while back, of being a little bit repulsive. He's come out and apologized for using that word. But the clip that's been shared today from TalkSport is they're genuinely dragging Ruben Amorim into this, talking about how Ruben Amorim is, does too many press conferences, and what he says should be taken more seriously because the England manager gets to speak once every 3 months. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, what are we doing? Why has Ruben's name even come up? It's completely irrelevant. It's not a United player he's talking about. You can't even do like the Ruben's German. There's no reason to bring Ruben Amorim up. And this is where I say to United fans, you may be against Ruben. You may not think it's going to work, but protect your football club, man. Protect your football club, because the mainstream media, they are not your friends. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. Glad he's gone. We can knuckle down now. I don't know who you're talking about. You need to specify on that one, my friend. But there we go. Let's have a look at some more of your comments that have come through here. You guys are just chatting to each other. I'll let you guys crack on, but I want to read what you guys are saying. Morning, Neil. Hope you're well. Verts is getting attacked on social media platforms. Should be called out. Look, Verts is getting bantered. Verts is having people call him a flop. There is a fundamental difference between that and lies being spread about individuals. And it's probably a good segue into the situation with Alexander Isak, because for me, I stand by how this video is titled. Alexander Isak's in danger. This is a fact. And if you're ignoring this, it's either because you're blind, don't understand how social media works, and haven't experienced this before. But Alexander Isak is in danger of becoming one of the biggest hate figures in the history of English football. And what that's going to lead to is ridiculous levels of criticism that shouldn't exist. It will be everything to the nth degree. There will be new standards set for him that haven't applied to players before. What you will also then see is a lot of pejoratives being used and a lot of actual abuse, and it will be masked. It will be masked by people saying, Terry, this is not abuse, this is criticism. This happens a lot, especially to a player who is pinned up as a hate figure. Because the more you're hated, the more tolerant people are of you being mistreated. You see this all the time in the political world. If a political figure is despised by the mainstream, they can have laws broken to punish them. They can have businesses shut down. They can be attacked. They can be physically beaten up. And people say, yeah, well, it's because who you are, isn't it? And I'm not defending anybody, but I look at it, I'm just not someone that likes to live in a world like that. I find something about that is... something about that I'm so uncomfortable with. I believe it means we're all standing on a very slippery slope that could lead to the abyss on a social and moral level. So when I look at Alexander Isak, I keep seeing all these lies spread. I keep saying these falsehoods pushed. I keep seeing people talk about things that are a massive exaggeration, a huge exaggeration. For instance, this video with Borson on TalkSport says Isak could set fire to the transfer system. Now, this is where you've got to be really, really careful. Because yes, this video is out there, and I listened to the whole thing. And this is what the mainstream media do to manipulate you. Borson didn't say much wrong in the video. Stefan Borson had a very balanced approach, a very detailed approach, and a very articulate approach. The problem is when you read the comments. The problem is I know how 80% of the internet works because I'm on it every day. People read headlines and not the body of work. People read headlines or they read the opening paragraph of something and they go, I know all about that. I knew it. This headline states, Alexander Isak is in danger. Read it again. Could set fire to the transfer system. The Football Terrace did a whole article about this a couple of days ago. Alan Shearer and Gary Lineker have also pushed this lie and this falsehood, which will lead to people outside of the Newcastle world despising Alexander Isak. You're trying to burn down our football. You're trying to change our game. Who the hell are you? This lie and this narrative that has been pushed now for weeks, that going on strike and forcing a move is somewhat new, is somewhat innovative, is somewhat something that isn't business as usual. It is business as usual. Terry, but not everyone went on strike. Well, they did. And we know this to be a fact. Okay? Dimitri Payet, Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez. Anthony Gordon, I think, did it to get himself into Newcastle. Wissa did it to get himself this season into Newcastle. I remember as far back as Pierre Van Hooijdonk doing this in the early to mid-90s. So I reject the notion that this is new, that this is something that's going to set a new precedent. As per this TalkSport headline, could set fire to the way transfers work. Absolutely inflammatory language that holds no truth. Now, some will say, Terry, you've said that Isak's in danger. That's inflammatory. I believe it. I believe he is in danger. I believe he is in danger of becoming a hate figure in the UK. I believe that what that will lead to, and this is where the conversation always takes a dark turn, and I always wonder about why this upsets so many people. Criticism is absolutely acceptable. Abuse should be pushed back against. But we know what happens when criticism and abuse become blurred and people just see it all as the same. And we know what happens when football players of any background or denomination are created and pinned up as a hate figure. It leads to repulsive abuse. And if you're a player that also happens to be a black man, you also know what will happen. Now, listen, I need to say this without you getting, if you're getting angry already, I think we've got to check the hard drive. That's my general view on this. Why the kickback? You criticizing Aubameyang, you criticizing Isak doesn't mean you are racially abusing him. No one is making that claim here on the Football Terrace. Well, I'm certainly not. I'm not even implying it. So calm your brain down. Stop thinking like that, because the fact that that's the first place you've gone to is crazy. For instance, if I criticize Serena Williams in a tennis match, it's not because I'm sexist if she's had a bad game. No one is saying you can't criticize poor performances from Isak. I'm not even saying you can't say you don't like the fact he went on strike. I'm not even saying that what Alan Shearer did is racist by lying about Alexander Isak, because I don't believe his motivation was racial. The problem that you have is when the abuse becomes so widespread, when lying about a player becomes normalized, what then happens is these scumbags go, oh, now's a safe time to shoot because there's all this noise going on. It's like rioters, okay? There are people that protest peacefully. Sometimes things can become heated and become a riot. And as much as I don't advocate riots, I understand that when things are emotional, things can spill over. We also then know when there are riots that a lot of people are there because they're just politically frustrated or emotionally frustrated, or, you know, they're their wits' end. Then what you get is some chancers that go, I'm going to turn up to this protest stroke riot and I'm just going to start looting shops. They're not there for the cause. They're there to steal trainers. They're there to steal computers. They're there to make money. And this is exactly what we're talking about. So if you're getting angry because, well, I'm not motivated by doing something bad, no one's talking about you. What I am saying, though, is pushing these falsehoods about Alexander Isak is going to create an environment where he gets all levels of abuse right through to racism. And I think we as a responsibility should be pushing the truth and not making up false claims. And for me, he is absolutely in danger, 110%. And you just see these headlines, he's going to change. And by the way, when you listen to the video, Borson doesn't say that Isak could change and could set fire to the way transfers are done. He suggested in the video that if Newcastle hadn't have held strong and got a good price, that could have set fire to the transfer window. If they would have collapsed and sold the player 50, 60, 70 million under the value, that could have set fire to the transfer system, in the sense of lots of clubs would now hold out and try and push prices down, and the selling clubs would get less money. He at no point said Isak would be responsible for it, but the headline suggests he would. Why is that important? Because people read the headlines and go, oh, look, hang on, Shearer said it, Borson said it, TalkSport said it, Sky said it. I keep reading these headlines that he's ruining the transfer window or transfer market. Must be true. The abuse starts. Criticism based on a lie is abuse. So if you're criticizing somebody for doing something they didn't do, that's abusive for me by default. That then becomes venomous abuse, which then gets all the little bigots pop up and go, oh, I'm going to throw in this, I'm going to throw in that, because everybody hates him anyway, so they're less likely to defend him. You see this in the political world. There might be a nation or a group of people that are doing something wrong, and it should be criticized, it should be called out, and it should be condemned. It doesn't then make it okay for racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobic things to be thrown at that group. And I'm talking in generals here. But people do it because they go, oh, it's safe, because nobody likes this country or this group of people or this religion today, so we're going to throw abuse at them. And we see it all the time. And the only people that push back against this, for me, I think it's silly people, ignorant people, or maybe you are one of these bigots. I can't think of a reason why you'd be against trying to stop it happening if you weren't one. Do you know what I'm saying? It's crazy for me. But look, I always, I just think, I look at this situation, I think we need to be really, really, really careful indeed. Let's go to some of your comments that are coming through here. Make sure you're hitting that like button, please, if you haven't done so already. Make sure you are subscribing to the channel as well. Very, very important that you get that done right now. Thank you, people. Let's go to some of your comments that have come through here. Let me just timestamp when we're going to the comments, because I always like to make sure people can find what they've said, etc., etc. Let's have a little look here. The Cop Father says, yep, facts. This here says, no. So no one is being racist about it. So why are you talking about racism? Well, I've already explained it. If you don't understand, read a book. Rivals need to stay out of this. You're scared. Fine, but this is pathetic. I think rivals have got absolutely every right to have an opinion on anything in football, Copfather. What I would say is that pushing falsehoods is dangerous. Absolutely dangerous, because we know where it's going to lead. Absolutely going to know. Terry, be careful. Out of everyone watching you, there's probably 100 watching you to monitoring you. Be careful. They will edit you. There's nothing I said that I wouldn't stand on. Clip it up. Do it. Because at the end of the day, the full context is out here. If you clip something up and take it out of context and try and present it for what it's not, you're only going to end up looking stupid. Do I stand on everything I've just said 5 minutes ago? Yes. And if anyone's got a problem with it, comes out to my face. I'm sorry that people might clip me up for standing up against lies about football players. I'm sorry that people might clip me up and call me out for defending football players against unnecessary abuse because of falsehoods being spread. And I'm sorry for one of the biggest reasons I push back against both these things is because I know where it leads to. And it depends upon the background, denomination, and type of individual. We know this is about female player. A lot of sexism will come into it. We know for a fact, we've seen it with Raheem Sterling. We've seen it with Marcus Rashford. When they're from an Afro-Caribbean background, here in the UK, you know what comes next. Racist abuse is there. And I think if you're a sane person, you should push back against this from happening. Doesn't mean because you're, again, but this is what happens. People go, hang on, I criticize him for going on strike. Does that mean Terry's calling me a bigot? No. What I'm calling you is thick. I think you're a little bit thick if that's the way your brain's working. And again, clip me for saying that. I think you're being very, very silly, you little sausage, if you are listening to what I'm saying and go, but I criticized him for going on strike. That doesn't make me a bigot. No one said that does. I think what makes you abusive and nasty is if you're pushing falsehoods that have been proven to be false. So if Alan Shearer, if you're angry and calling in pejoratives and names because Alan Shearer said he set a new precedent in the transfer window by going on strike, and then you've been shown that many players have been on strike before, so what Shearer said isn't true, and you're ignoring that and still abusing him, I think you're a nasty piece of work. Again, clip me up. I stand on it. I really, really am. Let's have a little look here at some more. Let's have a little look here. What more you were saying? Mojenda, great points, Terry. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it. And again, what I'm saying is the truth. Alan Shearer won nothing. Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or. Oh, God, I don't really know why that's relevant, to be fair with you. We'll move on from that. The whole reason why people are even allowed to leave for free is down to the Bosman going on strike and winning. Kind of funny that in many ways. People don't watch the videos. They go to the comments. Again, by the way, a lot of the negative comments are just trolls anyway. They just write things for a laugh. Let's have a little look here. Newcastle fans aren't relevant to cancel Isak. We will make his name even bigger. The cop will sing his name loud and proud. Let's have a little look here. Don't blame Newcastle. We have moved on. He's Liverpool's problem now. Yeah, do you know what? Geo2, and I haven't blamed Newcastle for any of that. If you go back through all the videos where I talk about I blamed the Newcastle press. I think some of the Newcastle, but that's not Newcastle Football Club. I think some of the Newcastle press are partly accountable. Listen, if somebody puts out an opinion because they believe it to be true, I'm not even overly annoyed at them. It's when those opinions get debunked and they keep getting pushed. That's when you sit there and go, hang on a minute. So we all now know for a fact that Shearer's claims that what Isak did was unprecedented isn't true. Players have gone on strike or threatened to go on strike and refused to play for teams before. Holding up Isak as the poster boy of bad behavior based on things that multiple players have done before him. And what they do is they're very clever. What they do, Geotune, is they say, this could change football forever. This could kill football. And that's the fear factor. Oh my God, the game I love might go away. Well, it's happened multiple times before and the game hasn't broken down and eroded into the ocean. And it's pushing out these falsehoods and these bad narratives that lead to the abuse. And it has to stop. Clubs try to also save face. Look at Andy Carroll. Didn't want to leave Newcastle, but they asked him to put in a transfer request and turn the fans against him. Yeah, these things have always happened. You know, these things have always happened. And no one cares when clubs are disloyal. And I get we're fickle, right? We've got our clubs back. It's like family to us. Your family you've got a family member. There's probably one or two nasty things they could do in the world where you would turn your back on them. Outside of that, most people back their family to a certain point. Okay, and there's honor in that to a certain degree. But we've got to speak honestly about these things. You know, we've got to speak honestly about these things. You know, I back my family, back my kids, back my brothers to the hilt. But I wouldn't back them to ruin someone's life over something that didn't happen or something that's exaggerated. I'd be like, listen, man, I got your back. I'll stop you getting beat up. I got you out of a bad situation. I'll protect you in that way. But I'm not going to join forces with you to push a falsehood and a lie to ruin someone. That's where it goes beyond it, man. This is from Ali Osman Sports. He says, Terry, an Eritrean is the most expensive player in Premier League history. All my life, when I told people I'm Eritrean, they say, what is that? Now you know. It's a man. It's Isak has done such a brilliant job. And I get that Newcastle fans don't like him, and Newcastle fans don't have to like him. And that's fair. I'm just going to protect him against the lies that I keep seeing pushed. Like when I see these headlines, he could set fire to the transfer system. What the fuck? It's not even what Boston said, bruv. It really is. Jasper here with a great comment. But he says, quit milking the Isak transfer, mate. You've repeated the same shit for days now. Well, people have got to stop printing the lies then, and I'll stop. Stop printing the lies, stop pushing the falsehoods, and I'll stop reacting to it. I remember before when people said to me, Terry, why do you always call out all the lies the media say about Arsenal? Stop lying about them then. Terry, why do you always bring up Fergie? Because he consistently gets lied about. Because that is what people want. People want you to become exhausted with pushing back against the lies and the falsehoods so they can push them. Because if nobody pushes back, those lies will become the truth. A lie told 1,000 times can become the truth in many people's eyes. You keep telling it and telling it and telling it and telling it, and people go, that's what happened. This goes on a lot. It goes on all the time. I'll give you an example of a falsehood. Okay? I'll give you an example of a falsehood. Fergie, man, got so much added on time. He got so much time added on. Let's Google this again. How much injury time did Man United get under Fergie? Right. I'll hopefully it finds the injury time. Sorry, there was a article that was produced. Because it was called Fergie Time. I don't know where the article is now, but it exists somewhere and it can be found. It can be found. And interesting was this, right? So this was it. It was like, so this was what's crazy. In injury time in Premier League history, under Sir Alex, so from 92 to 2013, Man United sit fifth in winning goals in the 90 plus minutes. We got 16, Everton got 17, Chelsea 18, Arsenal 19. Liverpool scored 24 times in time added on. There's also another article somewhere, and I've got to try and find it again, where I think Fergie's Man United were only like third or fourth, maybe even fifth in the chart for most time added on during those games. But the falsehood is, and this isn't one with a negative connotation, but the falsehood created is that Man United got more injury time than anybody else. United scored more winners than anybody else. It was literally called Fergie time. And this was predominantly because of what happened in one season. Because of the winning goals in the FA Cup knockout game against Liverpool, because of what Ollie did in the Champions League final, and when Steve Bruce scored those goals to win the first ever Premier League title, it was just coined. And that isn't a falsehood that carries any real negative connotations, other than the fact that then it got twisted into, yeah, Fergie got more added on time than anybody else because he used to pay the refs. So that's when the falsehood, hang on, now you've got to start pushing back against the falsehood. We weren't even getting as much injury time as other top teams. We weren't getting it. And that is a fact. And that's why you sometimes have to push back against these things. Because, we saw it yesterday. I don't know if you've watched the video on Terry Fleur's TV, but the young man whose name I now forget, I want to say his name's, I can't remember his name. And I don't even mean that disrespectfully. I'm going to remember his name now because I lost Luke is his name, the City fan. He was a nice lad. I'm not even attacking him personally, but he did what so many people do. Well, Fergie spent $3 billion. Fergie spent $3 billion in the Premier League era. If you do the inflation. So I worked out again, you can't not add inflation to every other manager. So I took what the expenditure was on transfermarket.co.uk because they're fair. And I just I went on to the AI on X and I said, okay, if Fergie's 760 million spent is now 3 billion because of inflation, work out the inflation on every other team in that period. And of course, this is the irony in saying Fergie, people add inflation to Fergie to make it look like he spent 3 billion. The problem is, if you add inflation to all the other teams that were spending in the same time that he was in the Premier League, he still remains a full price spender of all time. You can't undo that fact with falsehood. Equally, you can't then not add inflation onto what even Pep has spent, because inflation has existed in the last 9 years of the game. And you see that because Sky Sports, who Luke quoted, have got their own articles where they now add around £30 million onto the transfer value or fee of Pogba by going, well, if you look at inflation, Pogba would now be 126 million in today's market. So, okay, I then took that inflation rate and said Pepper spent 1.96 billion, just euros, it's on transfermarket.co.uk. If Pogba was bought in 2016 when Pep joined, 89 million, and because of inflation, the deal would now be 126 million, according to Sky Sports, and I'm using Sky Sports because that's who Luke quoted. How much has Pep spent in this time? His expenditure goes up to 2.74 billion. You then break it down to money being spent each month, each season. On average, he's spending 110 million pounds more than Fergie was. Even if you don't add inflation to Pep's, he's spending more per season than Fergie did. So what people do is they go, Fergie broke the transfer record 5, 6, 7 times. But again, there's a falsehood in there. The British transfer record forever was always done as sale or income. So say you bought a player for 3 million, it was a British transfer record, and the next summer another English club sold a player for 5 million, that was the new British transfer record. So in the 90s and the noughties, it was based on sales and expenditure. Now everyone's like, no, just on players bought. So yes, Fergie broke it 5 times. There you go, see Terry? He broke records nobody else could. Why could Fergie break those records in the 90s and in the noughties? Oh yeah, but Terry, you were buying a lot less players than other clubs, so that's why your expenditure is different. Now, we were buying less players because Fergie was different to what modern day managers are. He regularly bought the right players. And we were also fantastic at developing youth. And we bought lots of players like Ronnie Johnson, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So yes, we went and got Keano. Yes, we went and got ourselves Dwight York. Yes, we went and got ourselves Jaap Stam. Yes, we got Rio later on down the line, etc. Van Nistelrooy. But we also picked up Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's and Ronnie Johnson's, who went on to be brilliant to world-class players for us that cost us a pittance. We developed a lot of young players that cost us nothing in terms of transfers in the way it's used. That then meant that we could save money and go, well, this year we're going to go out and buy the best centre-back attainable in the Premier League in Rio Ferdinand. We need to add something because Arsenal was so great. By the way, Arsenal had Bergkamp in their team in 1998, who they broke the British transfer record. They took the British transfer record off of Manchester United when we bought Andy Cole to bring him in. We need to add something else. So, yeah, we went out and spent, I think, 15 to 19, somewhere in that region, on Dwight York. But we're able to do that because of how well we run things. But the falsehoods then get pushed. And they're pushed to diminish what he did. So for me, I defend Sir Alex all the time against the falsehoods. So I'd be a hypocrite to not then defend Isak. Liverpool have defended this summer. Why can Liverpool spend so much? Well, you're only asking that because you're an idiot. And they didn't spend anything last year. So that's why they were able to spend 450 million. They also sold over 200 million pounds worth of players. They're fantastic at selling, which generates a huge amount of income, which enables Liverpool to reinvest. Do I think Liverpool are going to spend 450 million every summer moving forward? No. I think next summer will be significantly less. And if they're very successful with these signings that come in, you might see 2 or 3 years where what they might do next summer is break another type of record. They might break the record for the most amount ever paid for a midfielder. They might spend 120 million on a Saliba, but that's all they buy. The next year, they might break a record for buying the best goalkeeper in the world if they need to. But if you've got a really good squad, you spend in fits and starts. If all your purchases are bad, like Man United in the last decade that have spent as much as anybody else, and you're always having to replenish your squad, you eventually run out of money. You end up spending more money than the successful teams, chasing it, like a gambler. Gamblers that lose money and keep chasing it end up losing more money than people that lose and stop. Of course, they lose more than winners because winners get money back in the other direction. Or you might get a winner that actually spends more, but because they're winning back in the other side, they've got a bigger stream of income as well to replenish that spending. When your signings fail, you can't sell them for as much money, which also impacts you from an income perspective. So I think it's really important to push back against these things. We really, really do. Terry, we have eyes, brother. We don't need stats. If it was called Fergie time, then that was a thing. You do need that isn't stats. That's called facts. What you can't do is say Man United paid to have more injury time than other clubs so they could win things when the facts show we had less injury time than lots of our rivals. Fergie time, I remember it. Yeah, listen, Fergie time was what happens though with Fergie time is that it also becomes, there's like a mythological element to it, which I find amazing, which I find brilliant, which I find fun I love remembering it. It's a bit like when Arsenal get corners now and Man United get corners. Arsenal get a corner, rival fans go, oh no. Arsenal fans go, come on, let's score. That'll impact players on the pitch. Right now, with the goalkeeping situation at Man United, we get a corner. Every one of our rivals watching the game at the ground goes, come on, we can score here. United players and fans go, oh, shit, a corner. Fergie time, that is what it was. And this is the irony. This is where the falsehood initially helped Man United. We were not scoring more injury time winners than 4 or 5 other teams in the Prem. But you created this myth, you created this falsehood that helped us. After the fact, you started pushing a falsehood that goes against the facts, that we were the only ones that were getting it, that we'd pay for extra time, that we won too many games in that period. That was all untrue. The irony is they were both falsehoods. It's important to push back against lies. It really, really is. It really is. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. Oh, the comments stop coming through. It does it on here sometimes. I don't quite know why it does this, but it does. Let's have a look at some more of your comments that have come through here today. Facts. Fergie time is a myth. Yeah, in terms of, listen, I agree with you. Touchline facts. Fergie time is a myth from the perspective that we were the only ones who got Fergie time, that nobody else. And I heard this said on TalkSport once from a caller, not from a presenter, obviously, because most of them are stupid. They were debating Fergie time. Again, it was one of those shows where they were diminishing what Sir Alex had done. And this caller phoned up and it got cut off very quickly. You always know when you make a good point on TalkSport from a caller, when a caller says something and you never hear the caller respond or challenge back, they just cut them off. He said, where is the rule written that only, even, I think he said, even if you're right, he said that the facts show you're wrong, but let's just pretend you're right, that we got more added on time than any other team in Fergie's tenure. Where in the rules did it stop other teams scoring in injury time as well? And they kind of laughed a moment, cut the call off, said thanks for it, and then just moved on to a commercial break. That's the issue with these conversations. They're just full of falsehoods and they're just full of lies. And I stand up for my team with it, but at the same time, I'd be a massive hypocrite if I was then just joining in with the falsehoods when it comes to sorry, I'm just reading something here. Falsehoods, if I then just joined in with them about other teams and clubs. Terry, I'm a bit upset because of Mark Goldbridge and Don Hussam. I've no idea why. You got to specify, my friend. Let me know. The other bit of news I wanted to speak about today, actually, is to do with Arsenal. I don't know if you've all seen the news that has come out today, and that is that William Saliba is going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. Now, obviously, a couple of weeks of that is going to be the international break. But of course, again, I mean, look, this is a blow to Arsenal. I want to know how much of a blow you think it is, first and foremost. It is a blow because he's one of the best centre-backs in the world. I think that is an absolute cast-iron fact. I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that. we know what a brilliant player William Saliba is. I am seeing, and I don't quite understand why, so educate me if need be. Why is Mikel Arteta being blamed for this, first and foremost? What is it that Mikel Arteta did for him to be getting the blame? And please don't tell me it's because the player played with like a strain or a slight knock. But the reason I say that is because players have done that for an eternity. They'll continue to do it. It's so normal. Again, aside from that, why are people so angry with him? I'd love to know. I really, really want to know why he's being attacked. I don't quite understand it. I'm just seeing this is on Arteta. And people are not explaining why. They're just saying this is on Arteta. Arteta's done us again. And I'm like, oh, what's Arteta done? Did he hit him with a bat? I don't know. What did he hit him with? Did he knock him over at training? Did he hit him with his car or something? I need to understand what he's done. But he's out for 4 weeks. I've seen a little bit of panic online from Arsenal fans, and this might trigger a few gooners. And I'm not meaning for it to, but it might. Let me take a sip of my drink. I don't think this is going to impact Arsenal at all. Calafiori's at the club. Of course, Gabriel's there. But Calafiori's there. White can play there. Timber can play there. Hincapé's just come in. Mosquera. Listen, Mosquera came into the team. When did he come in? He came in this summer. I don't know why my mind's going to make this summer, but he came into the team against Liverpool. That's what I was going to say. Came into the team against Liverpool. Let's be blunt. Let's be honest. Let's be real. Did you notice he was on the pitch? In a positive way. I often think if you barely notice that a defender or a goalkeeper's playing, it typically means they've done a very good job. It does mean that your midfield did a good job. It does mean that you're not being like penetrated and your team isn't being pulled apart. So systematically, you were set up very well by your manager and everybody was doing their jobs well. But I've also seen Arsenal where they have been set up very well. We saw it a few seasons ago. Rob Holding came into the team. Last season, Kivior did a good job, but the previous season he came in and you were like, oh, there was a bit like, you ever seen that meme of the soldiers and then there's like a clown in the middle of them? Sometimes that's happened with Arsenal's defense, where the team can be playing well, but an individual just making mistakes or is out of position. Mosquera came in. You didn't notice the difference. And I'm going to say something again here. Might trigger some Arsenal fans. Might upset some Arsenal fans. You're going to have to wait for the explanation as well, but I think it's a good thing for Arsenal. I think this is a good thing. Not that Saliba's hurt. I wouldn't want to see, Arsenal fans wouldn't want to see, no football fan wants to see a player get hurt. But I think it's because I think it's a good thing. Why do I think it? I think it's important for Arsenal in an organic moment to test for life without Saliba. I know there's talk of new deals. There may even be a new deal. I do, hand on heart, believe that Saliba will end up being a Real Madrid player. This summer, next summer, I think it's going to happen. So, from my perspective, where this is a good thing is adversity always can often present opportunities, especially when it comes to team sports. So Eric Cantona rightfully kicked a racist out of football, but got banned for it. Because you can't do that. It's the rules, the law, but he got banned. This opened up an opportunity for Scholes to come into the team a little bit earlier and a little bit more. And he took the chance and opportunity with both hands and never ever looked back. And think about your football clubs and think about the breakthrough of a young player or a signing that's been given a chance because of an injury or because of a suspension and they've never looked back. Now, I'm not suggesting that Mosquera will come in and bench Saliba. I think Saliba will come back and go into the first team. But I actually think you're not going to notice Saliba being gone. Not because Saliba isn't a very good player. Not because Saliba is bad. I think Mosquera is brilliant. I speak about this very regularly. About all clubs and all young players. And I know he's not a baby. I know he's not a baby. I know he's not a little tiddler. But he's young in terms of experience, know-how, the level he's played at. Because he hasn't been at a team the size of Arsenal, etc. But you watch him play, and it's just... You ever seen like a duck can just go straight into water and swim? And yes, it's a baby. It's bright yellow. You can see it's a baby. But it's just the instincts there. It knows how to swim. A fish is born, straight away it can swim. Most mammals, barring humans, but most mammals are born, they're standing up straight away. They're doing very instinctual things, horses, giraffes, whatever it may be. Scari's kind of like that. It's just straight in, brilliant footballing instincts, brilliant ability. The physicality is there. His intelligence is there. I don't think this is as bad for Arsenal as many are making out. This is a great opportunity for a player to make you better, and make you better from the perspective of to push Saliba for his place, that makes him work even harder. Maybe can force his way into the first team and could stay there if he's really, really good. If he builds up a relationship with Gabriel. It also creates a scenario where if you do have to lose Saliba through injury, suspension, or to Real Madrid, you can sit there and go, no worries. I don't think Arsenal are gonna miss him too much in the next couple of weeks. I really don't. I don't think this is something to panic about. I don't think this is something for Arsenal fans to be losing their minds over. Some will, because that's all they have. If they're not losing their minds about their football club, I don't think people take them too seriously, especially TikTokers. You see that a lot. Every day is Armageddon. I just think that they're off their rockers a little bit. But I think this is going to be a good thing for Arsenal. I think it's actually going to pay dividends for Arsenal as well. I really do think it's going to pay dividends for Arsenal. It's going to be interesting to see, but I do think it'll pay dividends. Give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, people, please, in the comments section below. I'd love to know what you think about this. I'd love to know what you all think about it now. So hit the like button. If you haven't done so already, get it liked. Make sure you are sharing the stream as well, but subscribe and turn on that bell notification button as well. It's right next to the subscribe button. Get it turned on so you can see as and when new content comes out from us. Let's go to some of your comments here. Let me just timestamp when we do that, because I know people like to do that. Let's have a little look at what you're saying. Are the comments coming back through? Ah, they are now. They're coming back through, sort of coming back through again now. Where is the proof Fergie cheated? Listen, there isn't any. It's just been a falsehood that'll always get pushed. It shouldn't be allowed for people to keep pushing it, but they do. Thank you, King Bryant, for encouraging everybody to hit the like button. Let's have a little look here. Some of you right. Neil here says Saliba is a top lad. They might struggle for a bit without him at first. I think they'll be absolutely fine. They've got such a strong defensive unit. I think they'll be absolutely fine. Hi, Terry. I believe Saliba got a knock in the warm-up. And why would they blame Arteta for that? What were they doing, like the Krypton factor? Were they doing an obstacle course or something? No one's explained yet why they're angry at Arteta. I don't get it. Everyone wants evidence of Fergie and United corruption. Type in Google Dim in Brunei football corruption. Proof, please. Proof. The Saliba and Saka contracts will hit rivals hard. Yeah, look, if Saliba signs a new contract, I think it's massively important. I think it's win-win for Arsenal. You maintain the value of the asset for a high sell, or you keep him. But when you look at the talent of Mosquera, and again, don't just look at the couple of games at Arsenal. Go and read about him. Ever before he was linked to Arsenal. Serious player. What? He is the manager. He's supposed to manage the players, Terry. Yes, okay. But players have been injured in warm-ups many times. players play with knocks every game. This is something that I don't understand why suddenly. Listen to football players talk. Listen to them talk. Football players forever and will continue to. Athletes forever and they will continue to all play with knocks and sores and, oh, my shoulder's been hurting for 9 months. My knee's a bit sore. My ankle. This is just normal in sport. Do you realize it's almost impossible to be a pro athlete, fighter, footballer, NFL, especially anything that's physical? The idea of that you're just going to feel perfect all the time until you play. If every player could only play when they felt perfect, no knocks, no sores, no pains, you wouldn't field a team. Why do we keep who has created, sorry to swear, this fucking bullshit? Who is, again, this is another falsehood. You cannot speak to any athlete from over the course of time. It is impossible. No one plays 100% fit by and large. You might have a few players that go for a few games. And sometimes it's small stuff, right? It's a blister, an ingrown toenail. Do you know what's really common in sport? Dead legs, dead arms, where you get you get kneed, you get caught. But no one is injury free. Go to the gym and ask everybody in the gym that actually trains hard, I'm talking, that are in good shape, and ask them what hurts. They'll have sore elbows, sore knees. I twisted this ankle. Yeah, I did a deadlift the other day and I felt something twinge a bit. Are you still here training? Yeah, you got to keep training. If we all just stopped every time there's a twinge, we'd never move. It's again, I know why people are doing it. I think this is what's happened, right? Sturridge had to be 100% or he wouldn't play. Well, there we go. And how many games did Sturridge play in his career? So let's just look at this. Daniel Sturridge. How many games did he? Very good player. Very, very, very talented player. He's 36. Jesus Christ, time goes fast. He still played 300 games in his career, but never once did he play over 30 league. He played 30 league games once in 2011, 2012. I wonder how many of those more games he could have played, how many more goals he could have scored, how many more trophies he could have won if he played with the knocks. Now, no one says he has to, but it's normal. Most players do it, man. Most players do it. Why do we pick and choose when to call certain managers out? This is what's dumb about the logic. This is what's dumb. Dumb. Is like, this is what's stupid about it. When the new manager comes in at Arsenal and these fans that hate Arteta love him, they are not going to call him out for playing players with knocks. They're going to say it's normal in football. And this is what I don't like about the agenda-driven nonsense now that social media has helped create, is people will pick and choose what's right and wrong based on the person they want to slander and slam. And that's a sad part for me. Sad part for me. You must understand why Arsenal always has many players in serious injuries. You tell me. But the idea that players are not, like, it's wrong to play players with knocks or sores, it's normal. Like, if a player's been running in training and literally keeps saying my hamstring keeps pulling, maybe don't play him, right? Because it might snap. But if someone's just saying, I've got like a little sore here, been massaged, it's been scanned, there's nothing obvious. What do you do? Just not play him until the sore's gone? Okay, you go, okay, cool. But you might end up, I reckon you'll end up with 10 to 15 players out injured forever. You'll never have a full squad. And part of being an athlete is getting through. I remember fighting once and I had a fracture in my wrist. And I rested it for about 4 weeks for a big tournament. And I remember every round. So I had fighting on the Saturday and I had forms and cutters on the Sunday. And I remember every time I threw a punch or blocked to the arm, the pain got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I came third in fighting. I didn't win. But I'm so proud of that bronze medal because what I had to go through to get there. The whole night, painkillers, strap the arm up because I could wear a strap for the cutters, just about get away with it. And I went and competed and I won. I won 2 golds the next day. And I remember being on my way home. I was in the minibus. We were in Urmston in Manchester. On my way home. And I was sitting in the minibus. And I just remember having this big smile on my face. And Bobby, who was the dad of one of the girls who used to be in a club, he was in the minibus with us. And he's like, you looking chuffed. I said, mate, I didn't even tell anyone because I was a bit scared they wouldn't let me compete if it got out. I was like, I had a little fracture in my wrist like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I remember him just saying, like, he like pushed me on the head like that. I went, what? He said, you little legend. He went, that's what it's all about. And I remember just sitting there thinking, those medals meant so much more because I pushed through some adversity. It felt great. Now, I don't know. I just think we're living in a really weird world now. I don't think people are actually angry at the fact that a player had a knock and hurt it in the warm-up and then went out. I think if you love the manager, you don't blame him. You say it's part of the sport. I think if you hate the manager, you say the manager's a scumbag. You know, I think that's what typically happens, but there we go. Look, I want to thank every single person who's tuned in this morning for the show. Thank you very, very much indeed. Do me a big favor and hit the like button before you leave. Make sure you are subscribing and get that bell notification turned on if you haven't done so already. Very, very important indeed to the channel. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all soon. Peace.